With GCSEs around the corner, the best way you can prepare is by doing a full pass paper. I'm going to walk you through the Edexcel Paper 1 from 2022. Now this is the higher tier paper. Let's dive right in. Right, so for question 1 we have to write 500 as a product of powers of its prime factors. To answer these kind of questions we need to draw a tree diagram. Let's start by writing 500 at the top. Now we're going to draw two branches coming down. At the end of our branch we need to write two numbers which multiply to give us 500. Let's keep it nice and simple, we'll do 100 and 5. From here we're going to draw our branches again for both of our new numbers, and we repeat the exact same process. Two numbers to multiply to give us 100, I can think of 10 and 10. Now 5 can't be broken down into any smaller numbers guys, so we're going to get rid of our branch and circle the number 5. From here we're going to do the same with our two sets of 10. Draw our branches in and fill them out. To get 10 we can do 2 times 5, so I can write that for both of our separate branches. At this point we can't break 2 down any further, and the same with 5, so we're going to circle them all. Now that our tree diagram has come to an end, we're going to summarize all of our circled numbers. You can see we have 2 lots of 2, so we can write 2 to the power of 2, and we have 3 lots of 5, so we're going to write 5 to the power of 3. This is our final answer guys, because we've written 500 as a product of powers of its prime factors. Question 2, we need to work out 1 and 3 over 5 plus 2 and a quarter, giving our answer as a mixed number. Our first step when answering questions like this is to convert our mixed numbers into improper fractions. You can see I've drawn 2 arrows on the screen. Now these arrows are going to tell us how to convert them. To start with we do 5 times 1, and then we're going to add our numerator. So 5 times 1 is 5, and we add 3 to give us 8. Our denominator always stays the same. And now let's repeat for our second fraction. We have 4 times 2, which is 8, and we add 1 to give us 9. And again, our denominator stays the same. From here, we need a common denominator so that we can add our fractions together. The way I like to do that is by cross multiplying. We'll first start with 4 and 8, which is 32. And then 5 and 9, which is 45. Since we cross multiplied, we multiply our denominators together. So we're going to do 5 times 4 and we get 20. From here, let's simplify this fraction further. So 32 add 45 is 77, and our denominator is still 20. Some of you guys may give this as your final answer, but this is incorrect. We have to write this as a mixed number. To do that, we first need to see how many 20s can fit into 77. 3 lots of 20 gives us 60, and the remainder is 17, which is less than 20. So we can write that as our numerator, and our denominator is still 20. So 3 and 17 over 20 is our final answer guys. Part B is a show that question. So we have to show that this equation here is equal to 4 over 9. With these kinds of questions, I always like to start and work out the left-hand side of the equation first, and then compare it with the right-hand side. If we do that, we need to do 2 and 2 over 3 divided by 6. Remember, when dividing, we can write that as multiplying by 1 over whatever number that was. Let's not forget to bring down our mixed number as well. So that's 2 and 2/3 times by 1 over 6. As you can see, we can't quite do this yet because we have to convert our mixed number into an improper fraction. I've drawn the arrows on again guys, just so you can visualize. We need to do 3 times 2, which is 6, and then we need to add 2 to give us 8 as our numerator, and our denominator is still 3. Now we can bring down our 1 over 6, so we have 8 over 3 times 1 over 6. From here we can now multiply our numerators together and we get 8. And we can do the same with our denominators and we get 18. From here we just need to simplify this fraction because we can see both numerator and denominator can still be divided by 2, so it's not in its simplest form. Dividing by 2 gives us 4 as our numerator and 9 as our denominator, and we've shown that the left hand side of the equation is equal to 4 over 9. In question 3 we have to simplify these indices here. Our answer guys has to be given as a power of 2. Thankfully in the question all of our base numbers are 2, so that makes the job slightly easier. The first step I'd recommend you guys to do is to get rid of our big bracket which squares everything inside. To get rid of it we multiply our indices together, so we're going to do -5 times 2 and 8 times 2. So we first have 2 to the power of minus 5 times 2, which is minus 10. Our multiply sign in the middle stays the same, and then we have 2 to the power of 8 times 2, which is 16. Remember, when multiplying two indices together, we add our powers. That should give us our final answer of 2 to the power of minus 10 add 16, which is 6. So we can write that in the space that they've given us. In question number 4, we're given two decimals and we have to multiply them together. When multiplying decimals, our first step should be to get rid of our decimal point. We can do that by bringing our decimal place 1, 2, and 3 places to the right. So we can write this as 4. Let's do the same for our second decimal. We need to bring our decimal place 1 and 2 places to the right. So we can write this now as 32. The important thing here, guys, is to write down how many decimal places in total that we've moved. So in the first number, we've moved 3 decimal places, and in the second number, we've moved 2 decimal places. So in total, we've moved 5 decimal places. That comes in very handy at the end. Let's go back to 4 and 32. We can now multiply them together. To do this, I'd use column method, where we write our numbers in a column. First we do 4 times 2 and we get 8. Now moving diagonally, we have 4 times 3, which is 12. So we write that here and we get 128. Now the 5 comes back into play, guys, since at the beginning we moved our decimal place 5 places to the right. Now we need to reverse this by bringing the decimal places back 5 places to the left. To do that, we start with our decimal place here and we're going to bring our arrow back for 1, and then for 2, then for 3, we can write our 0 in now as well, 4, another 0, and 5. So our decimal place goes here. So our final answer therefore is 0.2 zeros and 128. In question number 5, we can see a car factory is going to make 4 different models of cars, A, B, C, and D. Now 80 people are asked which of the 4 models they would be most likely to buy. They've given us a table here as well, which summarizes the car model and how many people bought it. We're also told the factory is going to make 40,000 cars next year. And now we need to work out how many Model B cars the factory should make for the next year. Basically, guys, the question has told us if 80 people are buying, 23 of them would pick car A, 15 would pick B, 30 would pick C, and 12 would pick D. That gives us 80 people. But now, instead of 80 people buying, 40,000 people are going to be buying, and now we have to figure out what these new values are going to be. The key point here to remember is everything is proportional, so if 80 goes to 40,000, whatever we times 80 by to get to 40,000, we do the same with our 4 numbers there. To find out what our multiple is, we need to do 40,000 divided by 80, and that gives us 500. So this number here, guys, 500 is our multiple. So to answer the question which asks for how many Model B cars the factory should make, we do 15 multiplied by 500, giving us 7,500 as our final answer. In question 6, we're given 2 separate ratios between A and B and between B and C. Now for part A, we have to find the ratio of A to B to C. To answer the question, we first need to find which letter is common in both our first and second ratio. And you can see here, guys, B is written in the first and it's also written in the second. Our next step is to try and make our corresponding B values in our ratio equal to each other. So you see we have 3 and 6. We now need to find a way of making our 3 equal 6. How can we do that using only multiplying or dividing? We can multiply 3 by 2 and we get 6. Remember, whatever we do to one number in our ratio, we have to do the same with the other. So we can rewrite our first ratio, A to B, as 2 to 6, since we've times both by 3. And then underneath we can write B to C is equal to 6 to 5. Now it's the fun part, guys. Since our 6's are the same, so our B values are the same, we can get rid of one of them. So let's say, for example, I get rid of this one. We can then write A to B to C as 2 to 6 to 5. And that is our final answer. In part AII, we have to write down A as a fraction of the three numbers A, B, and C. In part I, we worked out that A to B to C is equal to 2 to 6 to 5. So to find the total of the three numbers, we can add 2 and 6 and 5 all together, and that gives us 13. We can see now the total value is 13 and A only takes up 2. Therefore, A as a fraction of the total of the remaining three numbers is simply 2 over 13. For part B, Emma writes down three numbers, M, N, and P, and we're given two equations. Now we need to find the ratio of M to P. Now you can clearly see that in either of our equations we don't have one where we have both M and P, but we do have N common in both, so what I'm going to do is write M and P both in terms of N. Starting with our first equation, N equals 2M, we can rewrite this to get M as the subject of the formula, so we divide both sides by 2 and we get N over 2. Now let's do the same for P equals 5N. For the second equation, they've actually done that for us. It's already told that P is equal to 5N. Now that we've got this worked out, guys, we can do something quite clever. Instead of M to P, we can rewrite this as N over 2 to 5N. All that's left now is to simplify, so we can get rid of our N on both sides, and that leaves us with a final answer of 1/2 to 5. Moving on to question 7, we're told a storage tank exerts a force of 10,000 newtons on the ground. Now the base of the tank in contact with the ground is a 4x2 rectangle. We need to calculate the pressure that this exerts on the ground. The good thing about this question, guys, is they've actually given us the formula for pressure. So we know pressure is equal to force over area. For the value of force, they've given that already in the question as 10,000. And for the area, we're told that the base of the tank is a 4x2 rectangle. So the area is 4x2. Now that's just equal to 10,000 divided by 8, which gives us an answer of pressure as 1,250, which we can write down here. That's all for part 1, guys. We've answered questions 1 to 7. Make sure to leave a like on this video if you want to see the next part of this paper, and I'll see you next time.